Ladies and gentlemen, another episode, Nfc Beast. This, so as you can tell, is going to be Eagles takeover. It's all good. I guess the other guys just didn't want to come and have the faces this week. I understand. Things happen. You know, somebody's 4-0. Other guys are not. It is what it is. But just to remind everyone, the NFC East is the best division of all time. You want to argue? Let's look at the facts. Name another division that all the teams have won at least one Super Bowl. Oh, you can't do that because there isn't one. And name a division other than the NFCs where all the teams have won at least two Super Bowls. You can't do that because another division doesn't even have one. So until you can match that, because what I've been hearing my entire life as a football fan of the Philadelphia Eagles is Super Bowls matter. So now that we've won two, everybody else has more than that. That means that until another division has every team with at least three Super Bowls, you're not in our league. You're not in our level. You're not in that category. So you can come watch and admire and see what it's like to be the best, but you can't be the best. So with that being said, another episode, Nfc Beast. I am joined by this guy over here, the head of Shady Sports Network, Sam Shady himself. What's going on, Sam?
How's it going, man? Glad to be back. You know, I'm bummed I missed the last two episodes, but, you know, I had some personal stuff come up, and we're back. So excited to talk about some NFC East football tonight.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So we've had some games that happened last week. Those games I was talking about where, you know, we won, and there was another team that won. And then there was a team that didn't win or lose and a team that lost. So if you don't win or lose, I think you lose, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But, you know, there have been times where, you know, getting a tie has been beneficial to a team. But oftentimes it's not. Because it's one less win you can get. If you're in a crappy division, it's one less loss you can get. You're in a crappy conference, same thing, or a good conference. So we'll see how it ends up playing out for the two teams that were involved in it. And we will be talking about them in a few minutes. But we'll start off Sunday, September 28th, with the first game on the docket from the NFC East, or the NFC Beast, as I like to call us, because we are the Beast. The 2-2 Commanders went to Atlanta, to the Georgia Dome, or whatever they're calling it now, and lost to the Atlanta Falcons, 27-34. I want to preface this loss by letting everybody know Jaden Daniels did not play. You had Marcus Mariota as the quarterback, and I think we can all agree that there's a significant difference in the way the team plays when Marcus Mariota is the starter and when Jaden Daniels is the starter. Now, I'll say for me on this one, that's a Jaden Daniels thing, though, too. Jaden Daniels has to understand, and this was the only negative rep on him coming out of college. You have to get down. You have to not take the hits and get the injuries. You're not a big strapping quarterback who can take a lot of hits. And even those guys can't take hits. Lamar Jackson's out with a hamstring. So even if it's not like a joint or a leg or a knee or something, it can be a soft tissue injury. You have to start learning Jaden Daniels when to run, when to get down, when to throw the ball away, when to just slide. These things are going to help you have some longevity. And I'm sure if you're a Washington Commanders fan, you want him to have that. But back to the game. The Commanders, the best way I can put it is they just didn't feel like themselves. And obviously that's because they don't have their quarterback. They were able to put up points. You know, statistically, not the worst game they've had. But Atlanta just came out, honestly, pissed off. Atlanta went into Charlotte the week before and got blanked by what I consider a top Well, yeah, I'll say it that way. What I consider a top 5 team in order of where they should be picking next year. So bottom 5 team in the league, the Carolina Panthers, and let them blank them 30-0. So after that, you know that all you were going to get from Atlanta was hot fire. Washington, I think, just didn't have enough, and Atlanta was basically playing what you would consider like a playoff game for them out of embarrassment and their mental focus for it. And they were able to get the best of the Commanders. Your thoughts on the game, Sam?
Like you said, I mean, I think this team's completely different when Jaden Daniels in the game. He's just a little bit more efficient with the ball, better ball placement, which makes for a lot easier, completions for the receivers and whatnot, which obviously showed up this past weekend. I mean, Mariota only averaged 6 yards a throw on 27 attempts, so it's pretty bad, to have that little of a passing game, considering the fact that they're running the ball very well on the day. It just goes to show that they're two very different players for sure. So obviously we expect Jaden Daniels and Washington to be much better when he's back, but this is kind of what we come to expect from Marcus Mariota at this point in his career. We got to see it very up close and personal a couple years ago here in Philly, and now Washington is kind of learning the same thing. He's good for a game or two, but he's going to show that he's really a middle of a pack quarterback at best.
Yeah, and I mean that's good enough to win you games, but like you said, that's not good enough to win you most games. Just
exactly. Yeah. You might sneak a win here and there, but he's not gonna keep you on a run most likely.
Yeah, he's not a guy that you should be hoping is going to be the reason that you win games. Because if that's what you're looking for consistently, and more than just a spot win here or there, it's not going to be pretty. But we'll move on here. And unfortunately, we don't have our Giants guy here, but the New York Football Giants in home at East Rutherford, New Jersey, with a 21-18 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers, handing in their first loss of the season. We've been on here for a couple of weeks. We've had our New York Giants person basically say they kind of almost already packed it in for the season. Well, lucky for the Giants, they didn't pack it in. I'm going to let Sam get to this one. I'm not going to say too much. But the Giants jumped on them every quarter, 7 in the first, 6 in the second, 8 in the third. They kept them from scoring in the fourth. They kept the Giants from scoring in the fourth. But the Giants were ahead. That's how you win the game. It's amazing to me that they were able to go out and win the game losing Malik Neighbors. And I hate that he's going to be out because he's one of the good young receivers in the division. And him not being there, it does open up opportunities for other guys. Hopefully they're able to take advantage of them. Jackson Dart came in, had 10 rushes for 51 yards and a touchdown. He did have a fumble as well. He threw 13 of 20 for 111 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions. He was sacked 5 times. So he has a 65% completion percentage. He even came out near the end there, and Russell Wilson got in there and had one completion on 1 attempt for 8 yards. But I think you see the difference that having Jackson Dart and, as I like to call him, Russell Wilson in the game matters. And the difference is I think Russell physically just isn't the same player anymore. He wasn't in Denver. He wasn't in Pittsburgh. He wasn't going to come to New York and become a better player. I even said myself when he was signed, like, wow, you could have went with Jameis as your starter the first couple of games. See if you could get the good side of Jameis without the interceptions and go with him for a little bit until Dart was ready. But then they went and signed Russell Wilson. Maybe they feel like he was going to be a better mentor for Jackson Dart. Russell Wilson doesn't like a guy that wants to be a mentor. He was a guy that wants to be the starter. So I think the Giants kind of overthought that situation. But I always expected Dart to be the guy. I have him in most of my fantasy leagues because I knew he was going to take over pretty early. And now it's the Jackson Dart show. And I mean, not amazing stats through there, but the important thing is he did enough to get a win, something that the Giants were not able to do under the tutelage of Russell Wilson. So, week 4, first win for the Giants. Big one, taking out a team that most expect to go far in the AFC West. So, kudos to them.
Agreed. I mean, if the Giants were going to get a win, this was one of the probably the most unlikely opponents to get it against this season so far. Chargers have looked pretty good. You know, they've beat the Chiefs, who, you know, are always scrappy. But how about the game that DeMarcus Lawrence had as a defensive tackle out there, intercepting a pass, you know, knocking down another one, you know, a couple tackles on top of that. Just unbelievable performance as per usual for him. You know, we talked a moment ago about a quarterback that was, you know, more of a game manager in Marcus Mariota. And we're kind of talking about the same kind of performance from Jackson Dart here. Although with him, you know, it's a little bit more understandable. It's his first start in the NFL, you know, give the guy an opportunity to kind of learn, you know, play solid defense, run the ball a lot, and kind of set him up for success. And that's exactly what the Giants were able to do. You know, those 2 turnovers obviously helped. But they were kind of, you know, nipping at Justin Herbert's heels all day. And honestly, it's just a really good performance by the Giants. And I'm impressed. I didn't really think they had it in them this season, you know, but maybe things are going to look up with Dart as a starter, you know, and he's only going to get better from here. So that bodes really well for the Giants going forward.
Yeah, and the thing is not turning the ball over, managing the game.
Agreed.
Those were things that Russ just didn't have the ability anymore to do. And it's a physical thing. It's not that he doesn't understand it that needs to happen. It's just that I feel like he's past his prime. So you get a young guy in there who can throw the ball, who can make the plays when needed with his legs and with his arms. The Giants don't need a traditional quarterback to sit back there and throw 300 yards a game. They just need a guy who can manage the game, use his legs, identify defenses, and grow and develop in the system and in the team as the year goes on. So I think Dart's that guy for them. Could have been Shador. Maybe this was a missed opportunity for him. But, I mean, you don't go in everywhere, according to reports, as focused as you need to be. It sometimes hurts you. So there's, you know, a lot of different things for guys. And I don't know if another guy would be able to, when I really think about it, come in and be the guy for the Giants in this situation. Because it takes a special kind of personality to have to sit behind a guy that you feel like, I can play this position probably in your mind better than him right now because age has caught up to him. You see that in practice, just like we see it on the field in the games. But, you know, the defense of the Giants, I feel like, has never been the issue. I feel like it's being worn down because your offense is not able to maintain drives, turn the ball over, things that didn't happen in this game, which allowed the defense to be fresh and allowed them to be efficient.
Agreed.
So I think it's a good move for the Giants. And so far it's paid off.
Completely agree. And I mean, to your credit, Russell Wilson was in the game for 2 snaps and fumbled as well. So there's something about him. He just loves to give the ball to the other team. And like I said, impressive win by the Giants. And maybe there's something there. Maybe the NFC East is going to be a competitive division this year, or a little bit more competitive than I thought. So we'll see. So far, you know, we got a 2-game gap on everybody else, and it's only 4 games into the season. So.
Or we have a 2.5 game gap.
True. That's right.
That's funny. So Sam, I'm gonna let you take this one. 4-0 Philadelphia Eagles go to Tampa Bay, a team that's been giving us trouble the last few years, and we survive. I'm not gonna say we won the game. I'm gonna say we survived the game and got a win.
That's fair. That's a fair point. This was a tough win, and honestly, I mean, we kind of expected this game to be a tough game for Philly. Like you said, they've struggled with Tampa Bay in the past couple years, and they're honestly Tampa Bay is only really getting better. They've got a lot of young up and coming talent, so this game really could have gone either way. And I think. Um, Not to get ahead of myself here, but on the bigger picture, some of these wins that we're gritting out early in the season bode really well for the long run for Philly, because they're kind of gutting it out against some really good teams that are, playing us early in the season. So hopefully from here, it's only really going to get easier. But on the day, I mean, it seems like the past couple of weeks, we've struggled to get Saquon Barkley going, and I don't know if that's necessarily a scheme thing or what it is. I'm not necessarily an expert in that per se, but we got to figure out what the issue is there. Obviously, he had 19 carries, 43 yards. He did score a touchdown and still, was obviously effective in the passing game as per usual, but we got to figure something out there. Welcome back to the party, Dallas Goedert. Had a hell of a game, and he's definitely seems to be back to the player we once had, multiple years ago, and hopefully he can kind of keep up this performance he had this week. But really, my takeaway from the past few games has been, I'm impressed by the defense. We've gone up against some really good quarterbacks as of late, Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford, Patrick Mahomes. You could throw Dak Prescott in there as well. I mean, we're kind of getting run through the gauntlet here, and the defense is responding. They haven't let a team hang 30 on us yet this season. So if that's the magic number all year, I think we're in good shape as far as our offense goes. So hopefully we can get something rolling over there and really turn into a dominant team and roll right back to a Super Bowl.
So I'm impressed with most of the defense. I feel like the cornerback 2 position is where a lot of the damage is done. So, for instance, in this game, it wasn't necessarily on cornerback 2, but big plays, because you have to, whoever's been playing QB2 across from Quinyon Mitchell, you've kind of had to shade coverage and kind of help them out. So when you do that, you leave gaps, you leave holes. Jahad Campbell got burnt on a touchdown. Why was that side of the field open? Because wherever that cornerback 2 is, you're kind of shading coverage to help them because they're not covering well. We had the DeJean and Makuba kind of mix up when the ball got through for a big play. It could have been an interception or a knockaway. I'm not as concerned with that one, or really the Jahad Campbell one, because of how they happened. Campbell got stuck on a running back going down the field on a go route, on basically like a halfback wheel play. Campbell's not going to win that most of the time. But again, you don't have the other coverage that you're able to shade to the zones when you have that type of thing happen, because you have to try to help out, your second corner. DeJean and Makuba. DeJean did what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to try to go for the pick. What I feel like Makuba should do in those situations is hit the guy when the ball gets there. Instead of go for the interception, if the other guy goes for the interception, I want you to hit him. So I want you to time your hit to when the ball hits his fingertips, you hit him. And that way he can't make the catch. But young guy, first time in the NFL in that situation, things happen. You can live with those, but at the same time, they're concerning, because giving a big chunk plays is how you can lose games quickly. So a couple of those happen. Those are the 2 I just want to kind of quickly point out and say, like, hey, they happen, but to me, the reason they happen is because of other things that we need to do. I think Keely Ringo was ranked high, but if you watch the game, you kind of felt like he's not hitting. He's not putting wood on guys. He's not covering consistently. And that can be a problem if he's going to be the guy moving forward. We've got at least 2 more games before we can get Bennett back. 3 more games, because he got put on IR before the last game. So this was his second. So this is the first game that he actually missed. So 3 more games before he can be back. I felt like, for what I've seen, he's been the best of what we've currently put out, but there's nothing he can do from injured reserve. But I think overall the defense has played well. Jalen Carter's been hurt most of the season with the shoulder, but he's still been out there playing. Jordan Davis, Maro Ojomo, they're really getting the job done. They've stepped up into their roles a lot this year. Jahad Campbell, boy, besides getting burned that one play, he had a big pick, played well. I mean, Zach Bond, those two guys have been the best two linebacker duo in the league right now, inside linebacker duo. And I love it. And a lot of close games for Philly, but a lot of people have been, oh, the Eagles, it's crazy, the Philadelphia Eagles, they barely winning games, and they're not the best team in the league, even though they're 4-0. I don't worry about the outside noise, but the fans themselves are like, oh, this is going to be like 2 years ago. And I'm like, how can you say that? 2 years ago, defense was the problem. Jalen Hurts and offense weren't getting it done. They were bringing us back. They're the reasons why we had 10 wins. The defense was not getting the job done consistently. That's not the case now. We've got a weakness, but what defense doesn't have some type of weakness? Only us last year, right? So it's just going to take time. You got a new offensive coordinator. It always takes time when you have a new coordinator. I think we're making a lot of parallels to that 2023 season because a lot of us are still have PTSD from that. But I feel like this team offensively is kind of like last year. It's going to take some time to get going, but they'll get things figured out. Saquon is not going to run for 1,500, 2,000 yards. I told people that before the season started. Every team that we play this year's focus is stop number 26. Do not let number 26 do what he does. And that's going to happen. It's going to have to be using him in different ways. Some as a pass catcher, which he's done a pretty good job of running the ball as well. But you've got to get him outside. You've got to get him to the long side of the field and give him room, or give him to the short side of the field, but give him options so he can work. But again, Patulo's new, even though he's been there, he's new as a play caller. So that's going to be a growing pain. The wide receivers are going to get going. They can get going. Biggest concern for me with the Philadelphia Eagles is putting together a complete game. We've put together in the last 3 games, right? Really, you can say all 4. A good half and a not so good half. The worst half I've seen, well, the 2 worst is the last 2 games. The first half of the Rams game and the last half of the Buccaneers game. But the other 2 halves were really good. Those last 2 halves, the first half and last half, it's got to be a complete game. So that's the knock on Philly for people who want to find a knock. And that's a fair knock, just based on what we've seen through 4 games. But remember, you don't really have a preseason anymore. So the first 3 to 4 games is really your preseason. So now it's time to come out and hopefully we have opened the playbook a little bit more. History of the Eagles, probably not too much next week. It'll probably be a little bit more, but this is just what they do.
Fair point.
We won. Winning, getting to the Super Bowl, winning Super Bowls is the goal. So far, we're doing good on that.
Agreed. We not only won, but I mean, if you erase that third quarter, this game looks a lot different, right? It looks like we blew them out. So there's some things to fix, but it's not like we're off the rails here either. We're 4-0. We need to figure out a way to kind of prevent some of these big plays. But man, we're talking about a game where we essentially gave up 150 yards passing to Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay. I think that's pretty solid performance. Outside of 2 plays, realistically.
Right. I dig it. I definitely dig it. All right. So, to me, the most entertaining game of the week, I'm sure it's not for the Packers or the Cowboys, but for me, the most entertaining game of the week, 40-40 tie. Now, 2 1-1 Packers and 1 2-1 Cowboys. And I'll tell you why this is so funny, Sam. I think he was actually here last week where I said a tie would be nice. I picked Green Bay, but I said a tie would be fantastic. And sure enough, gods of football said, okay, you may have your wish, my good man. And I mean, you could break it down all day. But for me, the thing is, this was the Micah Parsons revenge game. And it really wasn't a Micah Parsons revenge game. But I think what I saw, and this is breaking away from just the football, but the aspects of how the game itself works. So Micah, this week, you saw him talking, you looked like he was a guy that was kind of focused on making things happen. He was focused on making plays. He was ready to get these guys. But he gets there and he sees his old teammates, the guys that he went to war with, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You got guys coming to the game in Micah Parsons jerseys, right? You got Trayvon Diggs about to cry. And you kind of look at these things and say, man, how hard is it to come back like a month later after you've been traded, play your old team, and go out there and play those guys like you do everybody else? They can't be easy. So I guess when you really look back at it, you were going to get a good Micah Parsons, but not the I'm going to destroy them and I'm going to show them Micah Parsons, because it wasn't them. It was all Gerald Jones. But, I'll say what I said before. Talking about this game, this only showed me that Green Bay is just as good as Dallas. Dallas is just as good as Green Bay, because neither one of them could beat each other.
That's awesome. Man, I don't even know what to say about this game. I'm glad that Cole got his tie, but I'm at a point where I'm blown away that we still have ties in the NFL. They've done everything they can, really, outside of just playing endless amounts of overtime to try and prevent this. And here we are still having games like this happen. Like, it's just unbelievable that there's still situations like this. I mean, it was like neither one of these teams really wanted to find a way to win the game, and ultimately neither one did. So I don't know. I really don't have much to say about this game. It's just mind blowing that we can still have this happen in 2026, really. But how about Jordan Love so far? I think he's having a great season. I'm pretty impressed by what he's been able to do, and he's quickly turning into like one of the stars of the future in the NFL and the NFC in particular. So the Packers fans should be happy about that. Like you said, I don't think either team comes out of this game and thinks, there's too many positives. Yeah, you scored a lot of points, but to what avail? It just doesn't matter if you don't come away with a win. So yeah, you can hang your head on a 40 burger, but not when the other team puts up 42. So it's got to be tough from a fan's perspective to live through that game.
I enjoyed it, but I'm not a fan. I really don't like either one of these teams. Green Bay knows why I don't like them. Tush push crybabies. So, yeah, I enjoyed seeing them both not win. And you could say they both not lose, but I like the not win perspective. Brings me great joy.
That's fair.
So, guys, we're going to transition here. And we're just going to talk about something I posed to the group. So a couple of other guys are not here, but they were so gracious to provide me with the information so that we could have this discussion. And that is our quarter-ish of the season grades for the teams. And, well, actually not grades, but players. I'm just using the grades, sorry, guys. But awards. So we're going to start with the awards for the Washington Commanders. So your quarter-ish season MVP from Couch Coach. His MVP is Deebo Samuel. I think that's pretty clear why, right? You've got the duality, catching the ball, running the ball, kind of being that guy because Terry McLaurin's been hurt. So it makes a lot of sense that he would be the MVP so far. Offensive player of the year. He has Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Makes sense, especially with the injuries in the running back room. Coming in as a rookie and kind of laying claim to that position. I don't have a problem with that. And plus, it doesn't matter if I do. It's not my list. Defensive player of the year. He has Dorrance Armstrong. Another guy I can't really argue with. Rookie of the year. He has Jalen Lane. Most improved, Luke McCaffrey. That was a bunny for him. And then comeback player of the year, he has Noah Brown. Another wide receiver that's been needed because, again, Terry McLaurin doesn't know how to stay on the field when I draft him. Jerk. Your thoughts on Couch Coach's season awards, quarter season awards, sir?
I don't think there's anything you could possibly argue with on his picks. I mean, they all seem pretty logical to me. The one thing I can say is you should know better than to draft any Washington players on your fantasy team.
Well, when you had him and second, third wide receivers, you've got to do what you got to do.
That's fair. And if the record, for the record, if this is the result of you drafting Washington players, please feel free to draft them all in the future.
Oh, I won't be drafting anymore. Unless they get in the same situation again. He'll still put up more than the other guys that I would have had to draft if I didn't draft him. So
true. By a long shot.
Yeah. All he has to do is play half the season. And it's a points league, so it's all good. All right. So then we're going to transition to Mr. Scrub Zero, who also was kind enough to send me his list of his quarter season awards for your New York Football Giants. So he has as his MVP Brian Burns. Offensive Player of the Year, he has Cam Scatterboot, their running back, which makes a lot of sense. Defensive Player of the Year, he has Brian Burns. Rookie of the Year, his pick, Abdul Carter, which I don't disagree with because he's been playing for 4 weeks. If you look at this past week's game, only set of stuff we have to go off of, you could make a case that Jackson Dart should be the Rookie of the Year. But, just want to throw it in there. Most improved, he has Wan'Dale Robinson, which I could not agree with more. And then comeback player, he has Bobby Okereke. We're gonna say that. Okereke, whatever. Yeah, so that's that's his list. I assume, Sam, you're okay with his list as well?
Yeah. Again, very logical picks on all fronts. And like you said, Wan'Dale Robinson, not that it was a very high bar, but yeah, very, very much the most improved player.
So true. All right, man. Time to talk some Eagles. Who you got for your players for the Eagles?
So I told you off camera that I cheated a little bit on MVP, and for MVP, I'm going most valuable person, not player, and that is Vic Fangio. I think he's done a really good job of calling the defensive plays this year so far. I think without him in this place, we might not be 4-0 right now. He hasn't let a team so far this season score over, I think, 24 points. They're averaging 22 points allowed per game. Pretty solid output so far for the defense. Really impressed by what he's done in 2 seasons with this unit because, if not for him, would we have a Super Bowl ring from last season? I'm not necessarily sure. So as far as offensive player of the year, I went a little unorthodox with this one, but as we talked about a little bit ago, there hasn't really been a ton of bright spots on the offense so far this year, but I went with Jordan Mailata. He's played almost every snap on offense, has allowed 0 sacks, has not been called for a penalty. can't ask for much more from a left tackle. He keeps Jalen Hurts upright. Doesn't hurt the team at any point for the most part. Really just a solid player, and without him, our offense would be looking pretty rough, or our offensive line specifically would be looking pretty rough right now. Defensive player of the year, Zach Bond, pretty easy pick for me. He's produced a couple big plays. It hasn't really necessarily been to the level it was last year. Obviously, last year was pretty nuts for him. But I think he's the type of guy where he plays almost every snap. He's a 3-down linebacker. He's not a liability in coverage, not a liability in the run game. He's just a solid player all the way around, and kind of the energetic leader of the defense at times, I feel. Rookie of the year, I'm going Andrew Makuba. This very easily could have been Jihad Campbell. Would not have argued with you at all if that's your pick. But Makuba, I think he's done a pretty good job coming in, taking over a starting job immediately. He's produced a couple big plays. He's been at the brunt of some big plays as well, as we talked about before, but you kind of expect that as a rookie. He's still learning. I think he's going to get a lot better as the season goes on, and I think we're set up to have a very solid foundation for our secondary for the future. With him, DeJean, and Mitchell, I'm very encouraged by some of the young players that the Eagles have gone out and gotten in the secondary the past couple of years. Speaking of younger players, most improved, Moro Ajoma. I think he's consistently gotten better year over year. And now that we kind of really need him to step up and play a lot of snaps because of the Carter injury that you mentioned before, he's really kind of stepped up and slid right into that role. And to me, there hasn't been a dramatic drop-off. So I think he deserves his flowers for what he's been able to do. And then comeback player of the year, I kind of alluded to this earlier, Dallas Goedert. Missed 7 games last season. He hasn't scored more than 3 times, but 1 time since 2019, and he's already got 3 touchdowns and 3 starts this season. So for me, that was an easy answer. Hope to see him continue that progress through hopefully a full season or close to it this year. But overall, I think there's a lot to like about the Eagles. We've got some stuff to improve upon, but these guys are a definite foundation to build off going forward.
All right, so for MVP, I went with Quinyon Mitchell. The level of coverage that he provides on the top or the most productive for that game, or most productive at that time receiver for the other team. Without that, we're not undefeated. Offensive player of the year, I'm going to say Saquon Barkley. Nowhere near the stats for last year, but versatility. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He runs the ball. He blocks. It's not a distraction. He's not happy with the role. He wants to do more, but he understands what's happening. He's a leader on the field. He seems like he's been with Philly for 10 years, right? Just how he fits in and, how he's a leader on the field. And he's another extension of what Jalen Hurts does. He's not a guy that's doing a bunch of yelling all the time, a bunch of arguing. He'll get excited, but he fits that mold for me, and he makes the team better. You have to plan for him. You have to pay attention to him all the time. So that's why I have him as my offensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year, this one was a little bit more tricky. I'm actually going to go with Jalen Carter. Shoulder injury at all, Jalen Carter is a difference maker. Just being on the field, he's a difference maker. He doesn't have to start. He doesn't have to play but 30, 40 snaps a game, right? He could take breaks like he had to do last game because his shoulder injury flared up and he had to kind of sit for a bit and get his shoulder right. But when he's on that field, man, when he's on that field, you can tell. This man was injured, shoulder hurt, and came back into the game and helped Jomo and the line and the rest of the defensive line make that last play on the defense. When you have somebody that's willing to do that, even when injured, those are the guys that are going to help you win. All right, defensive player of the year. I just did. So rookie of the year, going defense as well. Sam alluded to this gentleman earlier. He did pick his counterpart but I'm going to go with Jahad Campbell. I had stats earlier, but I didn't save them, so I can't give them to you. But essentially, he's the first rookie since like 2015 to have as many sacks, or as many tackles. He have a turnover, have a forced fumble, will have an interception and a forced fumble, and as many tackles he's had through 4 games since like 2015. So, very important piece as well. Obviously, I'm trying to go with different players from who Sam picked, but a lot of these were guys I were going to pick anyway, ironically. But just a force, man. The only thing I'd say needs to work on is coverage, and that's not what he's there for. But times happen, and there are going to be times where you're going to need to. So just that one area to work on. But man, he's really coming along as a middle linebacker for us. Most improved player. I thought about this, and there were several ways to go, but I'm going to actually stay right where I was at and just move beside him. Jalen Hunt. Jalen Hunt from last year to this year is 2 completely different guys. He's a starter in his defense. He's a guy that helps get guys in position. He makes plays. He's aggressive. He finishes. He tackles. He does everything that you want an outside linebacker to do, plus rushing the passer as well at times. And he has the restraint to not get the calls. So he does kind of everything that you want guys to do. And I love to see that, from him. So Jalen Hunt is going to be my most improved. And then comeback player of the year. So this was kind of funny. And this one's kind of interesting to me. But I'm going to go with Fred Johnson. And I'm going with Fred Johnson in the literal sense. Fred Johnson came back to the team via trade from Jacksonville and has been the 6th lineman, right? When we had to play Matt Pryor and him last week, he handled business. Matt Pryor did not. The week before that, when we had to put Matt Pryor in and he was so bad, we had to take him out and put Fred Johnson in, he handled business. So Fred Johnson, to me, is our comeback player. He came back to the team, and he is now our de facto right, in my opinion, tackle and guard. Whichever one of those guys are out, that's who's got to go in because he's the guy that's going to make a difference. So I did a Sam and cheated a little bit too. I figured Sam was going to cheat. So I figured I'd cheat with him. Can't call him a cheater.
I thought that was a good pick. Honestly, I looked at Jalen Hunt as the most improved player for a while, and then I was like, nah, I'm gonna go with Joma. And then ironically, you picked the 2 guys, and then defensive rookie of the year as well. Jihad was a very good consideration for a while there.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot, honestly, a lot of options for some of those, just because we have so many veteran guys that are still there. But
Agreed.
For those that we do, they have been playing well for the most part. If we did our most disappointing player, I would have picked Dory Jackson, but we didn't do that. But I just threw that out there.
Didn't we do that like a couple weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago.
It still stands for Dory Jackson for me. Yeah, it still stands there for me. Nothing's changed.
Obviously, he's so bad that he got benched for Keely Ringo, who's been terrible, and they still keep starting him now. So,
and he's been hurt. I'm like, how did you get hurt? You don't cover anybody. But
yeah,
another story the other day.
He got burnt. That's what it was.
How you get hurt getting burnt? Yeah. But I digress. All right. We have 1 p.m. on Sunday. The 1-3 Giants are going to the Superdome in New Orleans to face the New Orleans Saints. This is crazy to say, Sam. I feel and smell a winning streak coming on for the Giants. The Giants aren't the greatest team, Don't get me wrong, even with Jackson Dart. But they are playing the worst team in the NFL, in my opinion. The Jets are not far, but the Jets play well. This Saints team, New York, I'm going to be disappointed if you lose this game. This is what I had as your first win. So you're one up on my expectations for you, which kudos for that. But this is the one I had you winning. Don't make me look bad.
That's fair. No, I think this is probably a game that most fans scheduled as a win for the Giants. Coming off a win against the Chargers, if you go out and lose this game, that would just kill all momentum you have towards any sort of success here this season. So I think this has to be a win for Giants. I mean, I know it's crazy to say a must win in week 5, but as a team that's trying to turn around from a 3-win season, you got to find a way to win the games that you're supposed to win. And this is definitely one of those games for them. And the Saints have been terrible this season. I think they've broke 20 points once on offense. So, Giants have, on the other hand, been able to score some points at points in time, and their defense has played pretty well. So, outside of that Cowboys game, but I think they're going to shut the Saints down. I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game, and I think the Giants pull it out in the end.
All right, Sam. Then we have the team with only 2 losses but only 1 win because of their tie. The Dallas Cowboys going to East Rutherford again, which they'll be doing one other time this year. I believe that was when they played the Giants. I believe the game was in East Rutherford, so they'll be back on that field against the New York Jets. Who do you have winning this one, Sam?
Well, man, I'm going to pick the Cowboys. Like you said, the Jets haven't necessarily found a ton of success this season, but they play pretty tough against, basically anybody they play. They're definitely one of those teams that plays up or down to their competition, but I think ultimately the Cowboys have enough on offense to pull away from the Jets. They've scored 20-plus points in every game except for week 3, so I definitely see the Cowboys winning this one. I don't think it's going to be a pretty win by any stretch, but they're gonna find a way to pull out the W in this one and inch closer to being relevant again.
Yeah, I've got the Cowboys too. The Jets are due for a win, and I wouldn't be completely surprised if they were able to pull out a win. But I feel like the Cowboys should have enough to contend with and beat this Jets team. So I will be picking them, but I'm thinking close game because the Jets, they've been without their quarterback, right, for a couple of weeks. So he's back now. He didn't get it done this past week, but I think another week back in the offense should be doable. I think Dallas wins, but I'm not expecting a blowout of any sort. I think the Jets team a little bit better than 0-4. Still 1 p.m. CBS. I should play the video, but I'm not. There is a Denver Broncos fan has this belt piece. Oh, Philly, I want you to win against the Buccaneers because I want us to stop your winning streak. And he's doing this the whole time. I came across and I was like, this is different. But all that weirdness aside, Denver is a team to consider because they do have a good defense. Bo Nix is doing what he needs to do. Cortland Sutton has been playing well. And if you can get him on the side with our second cornerback, who looks like it'll be Ringo, then you have an opportunity to have a big day from him. I do feel we'll do enough to win, but I'm wanting to see at least 3 quarters of really good play. And so far this season, I'm only getting a half. I get it. You may start later. You might take your foot off the pedal in the 4th if you're up a lot, but it feels like we offense will be taking our foot off the pedal too early. It hasn't burnt us yet, or putting it on too late. Hasn't burnt us yet, but it still could. So Denver, even at 2-2, this is a team that's better than we anticipated last year, and they've only gotten better since then. So this is a team that you have to watch out for. But in the link, we should go, 4-0 against the Giants, against the Broncos in the link.
I tend to agree here as well. And actually, I'm on the flip side of the Cortland Sutton discussion. I actually think that, don't hate me, LeCedric, if you watch this, I am not scared of any receiver the Broncos have right now, except maybe Marvin Mims. He's got the ability to take the top off of a defense. But right now, I mean, Cortland Sutton's a great receiver, don't get me wrong, but most of the damage he does is across the middle. It's in the short to intermediate routes. He's not going to break a big play typically unless there's a blown coverage, which obviously we've had a couple issues with. But then Bo Nix has also had a little bit of a history this season so far of missing wide open receivers. So with that being said, I just don't think that after the couple games that we've had this season, or the 4 games we've had this season up to this point, that the Broncos provide as big of a challenge as some of the other teams that we've faced. With that being said, I'd still expect the Eagles to get the win here. It would not surprise me if it's a closer game. But I could definitely see this being our first, 10-point deficit or plus by the end of the season, at the end of the game.
Well, my thing is, I think it's the best defense we played, though. Buccaneers defense wasn't bad, but we clearly had their number until we kind of let up. I feel like this Denver defense is pretty good. The offensively, I don't necessarily disagree, but I'm just thinking, if you're Denver, you're saying I'm gonna put Cortland Sutton on this left-hand side over here, where I know there's a beatable guy, and let him go to work. And that could work, unfortunately. But the only thing that's important is we agree on we think we're gonna win.
Of course.
Game. That's the important thing. I just think the defense is a little bit better. I think Tampa Bay has a better offense, but I think this defense is definitely the best one we faced so far, in my opinion. Even though they're just 2-2. Again, byproduct of some of those things that have been happening that you were talking about offensively. And then, in back-to-back weeks, the Los Angeles Chargers are hosting NFC East teams. This week, Los Angeles Chargers are hosting the Washington Commanders, who have Jaden Daniels back. You got to win this one, Sam.
I've got Washington winning this game. I think the Chargers are reeling a bit after the loss to the Giants. And the Giants are a far worse team than Washington is, and have way fewer weapons on offense, especially after that Neighbors injury. So I would be surprised if Washington didn't find a way to win this game, especially with Daniels back. Keep in mind that, yes, they did lose with Marcus Mariota last week, but they only lost by 7. And the dude threw an interception and had, made a couple other bonehead plays throughout the game. So I think with Daniels back, you automatically reduce some of the mistakes that Mariota makes. And, the Chargers defense, it's solid, but it's not, it doesn't necessarily worry me against this offense. So I think Washington pulls out the clean sweep here, and we might actually see a situation where all 4 teams in the NFC East win their games this week.
It would be interesting. I hope at least one of them loses, though, but I do agree with you. I'm going to go with Washington. You pretty much summed up how I'm thinking about it, too. I feel like that offense with the Chargers got exposed a little bit last week, and Washington has, to me, a better defense than the Giants overall. So they're going to be able to take some of those same things and make it a hard, gritty, dirty NFC Beast game. And that's not the style of football that Chargers really want to play. So, guys, hey, this is another episode, NFC Beast. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this wonderful podcast. Please come back next week. Please bring a couple people with you. And for Sam and for all the gentlemen that were not able to make it tonight, it's never where you start. It's always where you finish. And remember, the NFC East is the only division, the Beast, that has all 4 teams that have multiple Super Bowls. The rest of you vagabonds don't even have all 4 teams as one. When you get there, you can talk to us. Until then, you're beneath, we're above. Facts are the facts. And with that, good people, we will be ending our episode. We'll see you back next week.